what a journey. But it didn't stop there. I had just gone into the Roundhouse Resident Artist program as I had moved out, and I'd also been taking time to escape the house, and the way I'd cope was that I'd push back the tables in my childhood home in the mornings and I'd just start to dance. I learned this practice called yes dancing in some of the programs that I was like applying to and got into, and I just moved my body. Even though I had chronic illness and I was like sick, I would find ways to just like dance and move my bodies and say yes and affirm myself, and just that's how I found my that's how do you know what that's how I found my dance practice. That's how I found a lot of things. By determining that I was going to take it up and take up space regardless of what was happening, that I was going to alchemize it. And I'd also been going to these music jams, and I'd also started playing my first festivals because of the collectives I was doing. I was playing festivals. I was performing my music and poetry at festivals whilst all this was going on. I don't understand how I was doing that. Oh my god. And when I left and I was staying in the safe house, and so I essentially was homeless, I'd found a music jam night where I found a bunch of musicians who were down to help me play my first headline full band show. So the week that I moved out into the safe house was the same week of my birthday. I think I'm 27 now. That was 3 years ago. I was 24. And yeah, I put on my first headline music show. And it was electric. I was so alive. Whilst going through the most unimaginable thing, where I wasn't able to like share where I was to my family because it was for safety purposes. And I also got into the Roundhouse Resident Artist program, so I was writing a play about queer ancestry and the fact that queerness had always existed in pre-colonial Ghana, and about spirituality. And I had to write that play whilst living in the safe house, whilst also doing Barbican Young Poets, whilst also working as a mentor at the University of Westminster. Oh my god, for creative writing masters students and like undergraduate students. I was doing all of that because I needed to pay the rent for the safe house and also try and get eventually my own house. Whilst also sick, mind you. But I did it. I don't know how. Then sometimes I would stay at friends who I thought were friends, who eventually were like, you can't stay here anymore, we don't have the capacity. So I was sofa surfing. I was living in this safe house that was not good for me actually, because there was not enough privacy or safety from the staff. And I was trying to pick up my modelling career as well, and do this and do that, and somehow I managed. And I put on my first play, and I put on these headline events. My play sold out with a standing ovation, but my health was deteriorating. But it was so electric, and it was hard. It was a hard process, a lot of breakdowns along the way, but I did it. Eventually, I ran into some issues with the house that I was staying in. It fell through. I couldn't stay with the friends that I thought I could stay with. All sorts of things. All sorts of things. I had issues with eventually, after my second house didn't work out, after my play, because I ran into, I think, the hands of someone who had caused harm, who convinced me they hadn't caused harm. So I helped them, only to realize that they had caused harm. And I was also having some issues, interpersonal issues within my household. And so I had to leave. It wasn't safe for me. And I couldn't afford it because I left home with no money. So that's when I turned to the queer community online, and people came through in their droves. With my GoFundMe, and they helped me to raise the money for the furniture and the things that I needed so I could live in a new house. And I'm so grateful for that. Through loads of different houses. The house that I ended up living in, there was a lot of like issues with like anti-blackness and ableism and all of these kind of things, and like along the journey there's been, you know, times where like I've lost friendships, but I've gained so many friends at the same time. I was still building my career. I performed at the South Bank. I've gotten into so many different poetry collectives and programs. I've had to leave programs because of like encountering people who, you know, have like sexually like assaulted me in the past, and it's just been such a journey to getting here. But I've watched myself grow, and I built it all from scratch. Oh my god, I built my poetry career, I built my music career, and you know what's beautiful, like I started to interweave like my music and like all of these kind of like melodies, and layered my vocals and all of these kind of things, and would perform it with my poetry. And I also would like with my music I would also incorporate poetry. I've been asked to perform as supporting gigs, as a headliner at so many events across London, across the UK, different festivals. I played Wilderness Festival, I played the Brainchild Festival. Like it just was snowballing, especially after doing a Roundhouse Resident Artist program. Like my track record of what I've managed to achieve was incredible. I also grew up Catholic. I didn't even say that. So that was something that was really hard, like growing up queer and Catholic. And I had this really beautiful gig, like it was a beautiful turnaround moment in 2020, I think it was 2022. Oh, 2022. Where I went back to church because I had this gig. There was this beautiful choir who did the vocals for one of the songs that's going to be on my debut album, which was about growing up queer and Catholic. And just watching and hearing them sing the harmonies as I also do my poetry and this song was, oh, this beautiful ancestral moment where like it just felt like everything felt so interwoven. I'm really grateful for doing my play regardless in 2022, even though it was ridiculously difficult, like with the time that I was experiencing, because I think that's where I've spoken about this before, but that's where I found my ancestry, and that's where I started to realize that queerness and spirituality like were so interlinked, because queer people often in the past were spiritual diviners. So that's where I started to build my ancestral practice, and I started like using fire magic and listening and developing my clear audience skills as well. And like my ancestors were we were just in conversation and having like, it was beautiful, because I think as an estranged person, having a team, a spiritual team that are present with you, that are guiding you, that are holding you, that love you, that feel like this beautiful chorus, is such a godsend, an ancestral send, and that I still really, really value to this day. So I'm grateful for that awakening, for that, you know, not feeling like queerness was okay and was un-African, to stumbling so beautifully into that truth and unlocking a group of a spirit team. What a special thing. Yeah, but it's been quite a few years of ups and downs, and I've achieved so much. I've in fashion, in music. It's been amazing. It's been amazing, and in 2023, I made the decision to really kickstart with my music, start recording, and also try and start to record the music videos. So I shot so much footage. I tried to recreate archival footage of me as like a younger, in my baby queerness. I captured me in present day, my more masculine, trans identity. And it was all going well, but I kept getting sick. And I was getting sicker and sicker, and then it was in 2023, at the end of that year, that my sickness got so bad that I didn't bounce back. I had a flare-up on my period, and that was the year that I lost my mobility. And that was the year I lost my mobility, and that was the year I got housebound for 10 months. After everything that I experienced, I was finally ready. Oh my god, finally ready to just take my life into my own hands. And then my health hit the fan because of those years of medical negligence, and it all just went south again. Then 10 years of my life, just not 10 years, 10 months of my life just indoors and stuck. Yeah, it was really, really tricky. I was really, really tricky, and I genuinely thought my life and my career was over, but I still had my ancestors, and I still had my friends that I had like developed and like built a community with over the years. I was starting to be back in contact with like family and starting to rebuild a relationship, and I think that like my illness just meant that there was a bridge in many ways where like it was like, okay, well, things are serious, so like what does it look like? What does care for Kobi look like? And it was a tricky time. I also had my ancestors, and I think like in 2023, before I tell you about 2023, I was starting to get really, really, like my spiritual gifts were really, really becoming richer and more powerful, and I was getting a lot, like I was starting to feel like I was clairvoyant, and was kind of getting I was able to like sense sometimes when people were in danger or in trouble, or like left the physical plane, and it would be confirmed in real time that people were maybe no longer present here on earth. And it was hard but beautiful to develop it, like my spiritual gifts in this way, and to be so connected to the spiritual plane. In 2020, like it was tricky though, because there was like one time where I gave this I gave a tarot reading that I didn't want to give. That kind of went wrong because I was still training as a spiritual person, and I insisted that I didn't want to give, and it was insisted that I give it, and then so I think people pleasing came in, and I was also really sick, mind you, and I think that was a time where I was asking, people were coming to take care of me in the house because I was losing my mobility, and I ended up giving a tarot reading that didn't go well. I think that it was like almost a group tarot reading, which I think tarot readings need to be really intimate, and maybe one-to-one, or like for me, my spiritual practice is like very specific, and it's very linked to my ancestry and my heritage, so there's a very specific process that I go through, which I try to relay as best as possible, but as someone who's still training, I definitely made some mistakes, and I think that I knew some of the steps. I knew kind of what I was like moving through and doing because I had been practicing, but it was someone who's new to like your spiritual practice, even if you tell them, they don't know. And so I think that like, in two ways boundaries were probably very much crossed, and I honestly went with like energy and how I felt like, you know, I felt like people wanted to have the reading, and like just like bodily kind of cues, but I think that it just didn't go, even though I tried to give a reading in the best possible way. And for me, interpretation means channeling with my ancestors to be able to give that, and I was asked to interpret, even though I was really reluctant. It just didn't go to plan, and in the end people didn't like the way I did the reading, and I was sad for breaking my own boundary, even though I'd insisted I didn't want to, and it meant that I didn't practice for years. Well, not for years. It meant that I didn't practice for months. I put down my tarot card, but when I got sick again, I started picking it up, and I started like retouching in with my ancestors, because I was just in my house, like didn't have anywhere to go, and so much was on hold. All the careers and all of the things that I thought I was going to be able to do, and the festivals that I was going to be able to play, like I was just watching time pass, and my health, my mental health, it was so bad. It felt like something was kicking out of me, and like it wasn't just on my flare-ups anymore, it was like a lot of the time. So I took health into my own hands in many ways. I changed my diet. I was like eating as anti-inflammatory as possible, was turning to the earth, to like witching and herbs, and really listening into my ancestors, and trying to do a lot of like using spirituality to heal myself. And gradually my symptoms started to decrease, and I started to be able to like live in my body a little bit better. And that year I still was creating. I don't know how I was doing it, but I put on a show called In Honor of My Body, Spirit and of Worlds to Come that summer, because I got into a disabled artist program and residency, and turned like my journey with my chronic illness, and also linked it to like our interconnected struggles, and spoke about Palestine and the freedom of like all oppressed people, and spoke about my ancestors. And I used video projection and like my link to the water, because my name is like linked to water and the water spirits, and I named myself after like the water, some water deities within Ghanaian indigenous spirituality. And I used that, and I built a world, and I used music and like layered my vocals, and I had a mentor and a team, and we built this world, this one person show, and I got a standing ovation for the for the first show, and such a warm response for the second show. And I again, it was all on my bed, like it was all a set based off the bed, and I didn't even have a wheelchair at that point. And again, it's in the darkest time I created the world that I wish to see. It was also about like generational trauma, and letting like moving through generational trauma, and my journey with emotional abuse, and like dreaming up a utopia where queer people can feel safe by the end of the story. It was a wild. I was so proud of it, and people really resonated with it too. And again, an example of, I guess, just watching myself turn what was one of the most difficult times into my life into something that I was really, really proud of, or like something that could help other people, you know? And that's what I want to keep doing. You know, I fell in love so many times that year. I got a wheelchair. I was in really toxic relationships. I was invited to come to America in 2025, where I went to DC with an ex and did a beautiful creative archival music project. I performed my music in DC. I met so many cool people. Like, it has been a life. Like, last year was hard, but there were so many moments where my ancestors gave me hope that like, this is not the end of your story. So after I came back from America and the most important trip of my life, I'm a polyhuman, but with one of my now exes, my sense of self was questioned. My sense of reality, who I was as a person, was questioned. And I wasn't even allowed to know. I wasn't allowed to know what I had done for a month. And then when I finally got to sit down and speak about it, I wasn't allowed to speak for myself. I wasn't allowed to clarify miscommunications. I wasn't allowed to have a conversation. I had to admit to, in a very carceral way, something that truly was a miscommunication, and I spent a really long time kind of beating myself up about it. I lost my sense of footing, I lost my way. It took my friends and my chosen family to build me back up. And then I really stumbled, because I was so heartbroken, I stumbled deeply into spirituality and Ifa, as in I found a mentor who I'm still learning from now, and I found a spiritual and creative community, and I've done several courses now. I've done one course called 7 C's, and I've done another course that I'm on now called Ogun Energy. And that is where I am now. I still managed to do my residency back in February after my trip to DC. I managed through the most unimaginable circumstances with an ex, and I just built myself back up. I've been spending this whole year building myself back up, and now now that I have my wheelchair, now that I'm starting to find myself again, I'm finding my people, I'm finding my community, I'm deepening my friendships, I've managed to get a lot of my symptoms to calm down, I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, and here I am. I'm currently writing my debut album. I've started recording it. I'm trying to build like a connection with those of you who engage here. And watch me and share in this space with me. I'm really excited about the music I'm gonna make, and it's gonna be almost like this, again, coming of age story that allows me to put the grief as well as the alchemy somewhere. I'm realizing so much more about my ace identity through dating more and not dating and getting it wrong and getting it right and getting my heart broken and refinding myself again. And right now I think I'm just pouring into myself, and I'm making, and I'm really excited about the music that I'm making, and I'm really excited about the album that I'm making. I'm also still fundraising for this album. I actually started fundraising earlier this year, but I just haven't really spoken much about that since, and it's still open. It's still open for anyone who wants to like donate or share to my fundraiser to help me to like bring this album to life. I am obviously a working class artist, a disabled artist, a trans artist, and it's been a life. Long story short, it has been a life, but I am still here fighting, okay? I'm still here fighting. I also used my grief and like the experiences that I had with housing. Yeah, I used the experiences I had with housing to also build my own, like, I guess org / like space called BTQ Housing London. Now there's a team of us, and we help black, queer and trans people to connect and find housing so that we can build black, queer and trans homes. We're on Instagram if you want to check us out as a team, and like you can join the WhatsApp community. And then as a creative, I am still working, like I'm making my album, and I'm writing and I'm creating, and I'm really excited about the songs that I'm making, and I'm really excited about it's gonna have a lot of the kind of experiences of like my formative years into my early 20s, and like all of these identities that I hold, and the stories that I've held, and the ways that I've created magic, quite frankly, and miracles from what I've experienced is gonna be kind of like in that first album, an honor to that younger self, to the me that got me here. If you take nothing away from this, if you related in any way, please know that it's never over. Even when you think it's over. I've thought it was over so many times. I honestly thought last year was the end of so many things. I thought so many times it would be the end. Last year when I got so sick and I had a surgery that just didn't work out, and they told me again that there was nothing there, I thought it would be the end. There's been so many times where I thought it was over, and it's not. I'm only just getting started. I'm just getting started. I want to be someone within the music industry that I haven't seen. I don't see a lot of like visibly disabled black, queer and trans ace people who have gone through my experiences, really, really hard life experiences like homelessness, emotional abuse, like all of these things. Still fighting, still making magic, still living with so much power and doing it anyway. Pro-liberation, by the way. You know, loud about it, loud about liberation and organizing and Palestine and all of these things, and standing in that. And if you relate to any of this, like, please know that you can still have everything you dreamed, and it's possible. It's possible to alchemize the unimaginable sometimes, to make and to be and to live and to breathe and to know that it's all going to be okay. More than okay. And that's the journey I'm on. I'm so excited for the music I'm going to bring you. I'm so excited. And if you've watched this far, thank you. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to see what we will share together and what spaces we'll make together next. I'll see you in the next one. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my story, my whole story. And if you haven't checked out part 1, you can check it out. Check it out as well. It's on my channel. And yeah, thank you for watching part 2. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting in this with me. I have experienced a lot in this life, but I've also created miracles, and I'm really excited about the art and the work that I'm gonna keep making. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on so you can get the updates of when I share my next videos and work and story and sharings and musings with you all. My name is Ocean, or Kobi Ayensuo, and I will see you in the next one.